Let me ask you something honestly. Have you ever been talking to a woman and suddenly everything changes? One moment she's laughing at your jokes, replying quickly, looking interested. The conversations feel natural. You start thinking, okay, maybe this is going somewhere. And then something strange happens. She becomes distant. Her replies slow down. Her energy feels different. Sometimes she even disappears for a while, and immediately your mind starts racing. Did I say something wrong? Did she lose interest? Is there another guy? Was she just playing with me the whole time? Most men assume the worst. They think distance means rejection. But here's the truth most people never tell you. Sometimes, when someone pulls away, it's not because they don't care. Sometimes it's because they care more than they expected to. Now, before you dismiss that idea, stay with me for a moment. Attraction, emotional connection, and human psychology are rarely simple. People don't always move closer when they feel something strong. Sometimes they step back first. And women, just like men, can feel overwhelmed when emotions start getting real. Think about it. When someone begins to matter to you, suddenly there's something at risk. Your feelings become vulnerable. Your image matters more. Your decisions carry emotional weight. That's when people start protecting themselves. They slow down. They observe. They test their own emotions. From the outside, it looks like distance. But internally, something very different might be happening. And this is where many men make a critical mistake. The moment they feel that distance, they panic. They start chasing harder, texting more, trying to force reassurance. And ironically, that reaction is exactly what pushes things further away, because attraction isn't built through pressure. It grows through emotional space, curiosity, and mutual investment. So today I want to walk you through something that might change the way you interpret these situations forever. We're going to talk about why someone pulling away can sometimes be a sign of emotional attachment, what psychology is actually happening beneath the surface, and how emotionally intelligent men respond in a way that builds deeper attraction instead of destroying it. This isn't about manipulation. It's not about playing games. It's about understanding human behavior and responding with calm confidence instead of insecurity. Because the truth is, the men who understand this dynamic rarely find themselves confused for long. They don't chase uncertainty. They let clarity reveal itself. And when you start understanding these patterns, you'll begin to notice something surprising. Sometimes the moment someone steps back is the exact moment they start realizing how much you matter. But that only works if you respond the right way. So let's begin with the first thing most men misunderstand when someone pulls away. Let me ask you a question most men never consider. What if the moment she becomes slightly distant is the moment she realizes her feelings are becoming real? It sounds counterintuitive, doesn't it? Most people expect attraction to look like constant closeness. More texts, more attention, more enthusiasm. But real emotions don't always move in straight lines. Let me give you a simple example. Imagine a man meets a woman and the connection is easy. Conversations flow naturally. She enjoys his energy. There's curiosity, maybe even a bit of excitement. At first, it feels light, but over time, something changes internally. She starts thinking about him more often. His opinions matter. His attention feels valuable. And that's exactly when many people instinctively slow down, not because they lost interest, but because their emotions just became important. Psychologically, this is a protective response. When feelings deepen, people sometimes create a little distance so they can observe their own emotions clearly. They want to know, is this real? Am I thinking clearly? Am I moving too fast? So they step back slightly, they watch, they reflect. And here's where many men misinterpret the situation. Instead of staying calm, they immediately assume something is wrong. They start sending more messages than usual. They ask if everything is okay. They try to fix something that might not even be broken. But when someone is already processing emotions internally, pressure can feel overwhelming. The irony is that emotional maturity often looks like patience. The men who understand this don't rush to close the space. They stay grounded. They continue living their life. They maintain the same calm energy. They allow the other person to move closer naturally when they feel ready. And this creates something very powerful, emotional safety. Because instead of feeling chased, the other person feels respected. But here's the deeper question most men never ask themselves. If someone pulls back slightly, are you reacting from confidence or from fear of losing them? Because how you respond in that moment reveals more about your emotional strength than anything you say. And interestingly enough, that reaction is often what determines what happens next, which brings us to something even more fascinating. Sometimes the distance isn't just about emotions, sometimes it's a test of character, and most men fail it without even realizing it. Let me ask you something most men never notice. When someone pulls back slightly, do you immediately try to chase the connection back? Or do you stay calm and observe what's really happening? Because sometimes distance isn't only about emotions, sometimes it's about observation. Imagine this situation. A woman has been enjoying talking to a man. The conversations feel natural. He seems confident, grounded, and interesting, but she still doesn't fully know who he is under pressure. So without announcing it, she creates a little space. Maybe she replies a little slower. Maybe she stops initiating for a moment. Maybe she simply becomes quieter than usual. And what happens next reveals everything. Does the man become anxious? Does he send multiple messages trying to regain control of the situation? Does his energy suddenly shift from calm confidence to nervous attention-seeking? Or does he stay the same person she was originally attracted to? Psychologically, this moment is powerful because it reveals emotional stability. Everyone looks confident when things are going well, but true character shows when there's uncertainty. A man who becomes reactive shows that his emotional state depends entirely on her behavior. But a man who remains calm communicates something different. He shows that his life continues. His confidence isn't fragile. His attention is valuable, but it's not desperate. And interestingly enough, that calmness often pulls people closer again. Why? Because emotional security is incredibly attractive. When someone realizes they can step back without triggering panic or pressure, they feel safer investing emotionally. They don't feel trapped. They feel respected. So the real solution here isn't trying to pass some kind of test. It's much simpler than that. Stay the same grounded person you were before the distance appeared. Continue your routines. Focus on your goals. Respond naturally instead of reactively. Because the truth is, when someone observes that your confidence doesn't collapse the moment they create space, it makes them curious, it makes them respect you more. And sometimes it even makes them come closer again. But this leads to something we need to talk about honestly. Because while distance can reveal emotional attachment, it can also expose something uncomfortable in many men. And this next point might challenge you a little. Let me say something that might be difficult to hear, but it's important. Many men don't lose attraction because of distance. They lose attraction because of how they react to it. Think about it carefully. When someone pulls away slightly, what does the average man do? He overthinks every message. He checks his phone constantly. He starts wondering what he did wrong. And then the behavior begins. More texting, more attempts to get reassurance, more effort to fix the connection. But here's the uncomfortable truth. When someone senses that you're afraid of losing them, it changes the emotional dynamic completely. The interaction stops feeling balanced. It starts feeling like one person is chasing validation. Now, I want to be clear about something. Wanting someone's attention is normal. Caring about a connection is human. But emotional strength means your sense of value doesn't collapse just because someone becomes slightly distant. And this is where many men need a mindset shift. Your confidence cannot depend on another person's response time, mood, or temporary behavior, because if it does, you unknowingly communicate insecurity, and insecurity often pushes people further away, even when they originally liked you. A grounded man understands something very simple. Attraction grows best when both people feel free, not pressured. So when distance appears, instead of reacting emotionally, he becomes curious. He observes. He continues living his life. He keeps his self-respect intact. And ironically, this calm presence often restores balance in the connection, because now the interaction feels natural again, not heavy. But here's something even more fascinating about human psychology. Sometimes distance doesn't just reveal emotions. Sometimes it creates clarity. And the space between two people can actually strengthen attraction if it's handled the right way. Let's talk about something surprisingly powerful: space. Most people think attraction grows through constant interaction, more conversations, more attention, more time together. But psychology tells us something interesting. Sometimes absence sharpens emotional awareness. Think about a simple experience from your own life. Have you ever taken a short break from someone and suddenly realized how much you enjoyed their presence? That clarity often appears because of the space, not despite it. When someone is always available, the brain quickly adapts. Their presence becomes normal. But when a little distance appears, something changes. Your mind starts reflecting. You remember the conversations. You recall the energy they brought into your day. You begin to compare that experience with the quiet that replaced it. And that's when emotions become clearer. Now imagine how this works in relationships or early attraction. If a man reacts to distance by constantly filling the space with messages and reassurance, the other person never gets the chance to process those emotions. But when he allows a natural pause, something interesting happens. The connection gets room to breathe. The other person has space to think about him, space to miss the conversations, space to realize whether the connection actually mattered. This doesn't mean disappearing or playing games. It simply means respecting the natural rhythm of human interaction. You remain present, but you're not forcing constant closeness. And this quiet confidence communicates something powerful. Your life is full. Your identity isn't built around chasing attention. Your presence is valuable, but it's not desperate. That energy often creates curiosity. And curiosity is one of the strongest forces in attraction. But there's one final piece to this dynamic that most men never fully understand. Because when someone pulls away and you remain calm, something subtle begins to shift in the emotional balance, and that shift can make someone move closer again. Now, here's the part that surprises many men. The moment you stop chasing clarity is often the moment clarity begins to appear. Why? Because calm confidence changes the emotional atmosphere of the interaction. Let's imagine two different reactions. In the first situation, a man notices that a woman becomes slightly distant. He immediately starts seeking reassurance, more messages, more attention, more effort to pull her back into constant conversation. The connection starts feeling pressured. Now imagine the second situation. The man notices the distance, but his behavior doesn't change. He still responds warmly when they talk. He still enjoys the interaction, but he continues focusing on his own life, goals, and routines. There is no panic, no attempt to force closeness, just steady confidence. Psychologically, this sends a very different signal. It communicates emotional stability. It shows that your attention is genuine, but it's not dependent on constant validation. And that energy is incredibly grounding. Because when someone realizes that your presence isn't based on insecurity or pressure, they begin to see you differently. You become someone they can feel relaxed around, someone whose emotional state doesn't fluctuate with every small change in the interaction. And interestingly enough, this calm presence often creates curiosity again. They begin wondering what you're doing, what you're focused on, why you didn't react the way most people do. That curiosity can slowly bring them back into the connection, not because they were forced, but because they felt safe returning. And that's the real secret most people overlook. Attraction grows strongest in environments where people feel free, not pressured. But there's one final truth I want to leave you with, and it might challenge the way you've been thinking about relationships entirely. Here's a controversial truth that many people don't like hearing. Sometimes the strongest connections aren't revealed by how close someone stays, but by how they behave when a little distance appears. Distance exposes emotional maturity. It shows whether someone reacts with panic, pressure, and insecurity, or with calm confidence and self-respect. And that difference quietly shapes how attraction grows. If there's one thing I want you to understand from this conversation, it's this. Not every moment of distance means rejection. Sometimes it's reflection, sometimes it's emotional processing, and sometimes it's simply life moving at its natural pace. The men who handle these moments best are not the ones who chase the hardest. They are the ones who remain steady. They keep building their lives. they keep their dignity, they allow connections to develop naturally instead of forcing them. And from a woman's perspective, that kind of emotional strength is rare and deeply respected. So I'm curious about something. Have you ever experienced a situation where someone pulled away and later came back with stronger interest? Or maybe you've been the one who reacted too quickly and realized it afterward. Share your experience in the comments. Conversations like this become much more powerful when people learn from each other. And I'll leave you with one final thought. The right connection doesn't grow from chasing attention. It grows from mutual curiosity, patience, and emotional strength. Sometimes the most powerful move you can make is simply allowing someone the space to realize your value.